All right, guys, what's going on? Andre with AndreReese.Biz. It's been a hot minute since I've done a cyclecast, so let's get right into it and let's make it happen. So today's final topic, just to give you guys a little teaser, I'm going to talk about Love is Blind, Ohio. But before that, I got a few topics to talk about. I'm going to talk about my birthday that just passed, give you guys kind of a rundown on that. Talk about some observations with Black History Month. I'm going to talk real quick about State of the Union and a hard lesson that was maybe learned. And I want to also talk about the Iran conflict right now, and specifically United Emirates, so UAE. So yeah, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So, man, it's been a minute, probably about 2 weeks plus since I've done a cyclecast. Man, your boy has been all over this planet. So me and Marilyn took off and we went down to Miami, and I did do a bike ride recording, but it wasn't a cyclecast down there. And we were staged up for a cruise we went on, the Resilient Lady, for Valentine's Day. We had a fantastic and remarkable time. So it was epic. We had a great time. So it was a Valentine's Day cruise that set sail on February 14th, and then which was Saturday. Then lo and behold, we ended up making it back the following Saturday. We had 3 ports that we went and visited. We visited Ocho Rios, Jamaica. We went to Grand Cayman Islands, and we also went to Bimini, Bahamas, where they have their private beach club. So we had a fantastic time doing all that stuff, and you know, it was epic. You know, I'm honest to say. And I'll tell you, and I said this before, at this point in my life, in our life, we're pretty much done with cruising on any other cruise line for now, intentionally. And so we had a cruise that was booked out of Norfolk. Is literally right down the street. We could have just drove in the day of and parked and paid like $7 for parking, and we would have had like an 8-day cruise. It's really inexpensive, but after the profound experience we had on Virgin, I mean, it speaks to our soul, and that's where we're going to put our money at. So when we got back, we ended up booking another cruise for the not so near future, but this adventure is going to be epic, and it essentially cost no money at all. And I'll talk about it another day, but I want to at least kind of say that. But so once we got back, we were both sick a little bit. Weather was a little bit janky, and we got kind of, I call it the Caribbean flu or Caribbean plague. It seems like everybody's getting it right now. I rarely ever get sick, and same thing with Marilyn. But I had to take a knee for about 3 days, and she was down for a couple days also too. And you know, so here we are, we're back. And then so the temperature out here right now in Richmond is fantastic. It's like 83 degrees. And so I went ahead and got on my bike to do this bike ride, you know, so our brother's feeling great and happy to be here. And like I said, you know, you can see behind me what's going on, but like I said, we had a fantastic time, and we just also came back off of celebrating my birthday. And I'm a Pisces, you know, through and through. I fit all the characteristics, and you know, it's funny how these kind of things kind of work out. And you know, I love being by the water. And so when we were on the cruise, I enjoyed sitting out on the balcony, just listening to the ocean and hanging out at the beach and all that kind of stuff. So Marilyn went ahead and told me when we got back, she's like, hey, this Friday, your birthday, you know, shut it down, be sitting on the step with your suitcase and your away bag. At 3:30, we're gonna head out. And so she went ahead and surprised me and took me down to Virginia Beach, about an hour and a half drive south from here. And we stayed on the water in a hotel. We stayed down there till Sunday. We had a fantastic time. So it was cool. Took me out to dinner that night, and we went to a really good place across the street, and had a fantastic time. Came back and crashed out, and so the next day was like the highlight of the whole thing. So the thing is, when Marilyn did tell me before I left, she said, hey, bring your blade outfit. I was like, my blade outfit? So I ended up bringing that with me, and I had no idea what we're gonna do. Didn't know if we were gonna go someplace and go to a Comic-Con or whatever. But I played along in the spirit of, uncertainty, and I went to grab my blade, my actual sword, and she's like, no, leave it here, you don't need it. And I said, well, how can you be blade without having a sword? She said, don't worry, everything you need will be provided for you. So the air of mystery lasted until Saturday while we were on our way there. But what she ended up doing was she ended up booking a 2-hour class for both of us. And there was what we ended up doing, we ended up going to, it's essentially a lightsaber combat training academy. And I'm completely familiar with this subculture, that there are folks that, get together and they battle with their lightsabers and stuff like that. They learn techniques. They have a respectful hierarchy. They have, commissioned teachers and all that. And I've known about this for years. And so here we are. She took me to a martial arts lightsaber training academy, and took a basic class and learned some combat techniques. And in the end, we had 1-minute duels. I got to battle Marilyn and some of the other people that were there. And I'll tell you, I had a fantastic time. I'll tell you, I had no procedures, and I had nothing in me to prepare me for this experience. So it was all brand new, and it zapped the hell out of me. So I had to go back to the hotel afterwards and lay down for a few hours and sleep so I can process everything that had happened. But man, it was incredible. And then later on that night, we went out and ate again, and then we also ate the next morning, had a great breakfast, and then we took off and headed home. And so here we are in the back end of my birthday from last week, and like I said, I had 58 revolutions around the sun. My brother's happy, and life is good, no complaints. And I do celebrate my birthdays. I hope all you guys out there celebrate your birthdays also as well. And as each day, clicks forward, gets us closer to the end of our lives. So I try to do everything I can do to try to maximize life as much as possible. But most importantly, I'm very mindful of my environment, and I try to do things that will minimize my risk of coming to an untimely demise. So I'm thankful for Marilyn and all that she did to have a wonderful birthday for me. I'm thankful for all the folks that reached out and sent me cards and called and texts and sent gifts and came by, all that. So brother definitely was feeling the love, and I definitely do appreciate you guys all for doing that for sure. So, and yeah, so that's it for my birthday. I've got I'm on year number, I'm working on year 59 at this point, then big 60. Then I have some tough decisions to make to see if I'm gonna take Social Security early or at 65 or a little bit later, so, but having conversations with my clients and stuff, we have some ideas and some opinions what we would do with the money if we took it early. But we'll see. So definitely, thanks again for looking out for a brother on his birthday. So let's jump into, let's talk about Black History Month. And so my birthday is on February 27th, so it's one of the last official celebrations of Black History Month. I like to think about it that way, and I always want to wish everybody a fantastic and wonderful Black History month of February. And this was 100 years of celebrating foundational Black Americans' contributions to the United States. And, you know, we got to always remember the original mission of why we are here to celebrate it. So yeah, had a great time. But one of the things I want to talk about is during Black History Month, and a lot of people talk about this. They're like, you know what? This new president, when he gets in office, he's gonna cut everything out and he's gonna cancel Black History Month and all that. Well, here we go. Still hasn't happened yet. You know, still waiting. But nevertheless, he had a celebration at the White House for Black History Month. And it's not like anything that's any different than any other years. There's always people that are invited from the community to be there. There's individuals that will oftentimes say a few words. It's an opportunity to be able to meet the president. I know a lot of people have a lot of, you know, love for the man or hate for the man, depending on what side of the fence you're on. But this really has nothing to do with either one of those positions, you know. But I'll tell you, the one thing I noticed when I was watching back and looking at the footage of the folks that came through to celebrate Black History Month, is that things are changing and things are getting different. And I started to notice this really about a year before the election popped up. And traditionally, you know, my people here, we have a tendency to vote more towards the blue side of the equation. And what's ended up happening, what I've noticed is there's always certain people within the family that we can count on to, you know, act a certain way and speak out against, you know, a collective best interest. You know, those people have always been around for all my life. And there's different people. I'm not going to name anybody at all. You guys know who I'm talking about. But there's always been certain folks within the community that fit that role, where they kind of roll up and they're there to do the bidding for people in the red team. And they're oftentimes called certain names that date back to, you know, slavery and stuff like that. And, you know, like I said, everybody's got to get in and fit in. And I'll tell you, we can look at each other and we can easily tell, you know, where you fall generally, what lifestyle you take on. You know, there's certain characteristics. We can tell the difference between the church folks from the nerds, from the, you know, the ones that are the athletes, you know, the ones that are a little bit more corporate bound. You can tell the ones that are Republican. On the red side, we can tell the ones that lean super blue, just by looking at each other and by how we move and how we walk and how we talk. You know, we can pick up these verbal clues from each other. Because like I said, we're very visual people. And once you start making a move, you know, these are kind of things that we're able to feel. And traditionally, before in the past, you know, there's always been a certain group of people, like I said, that have a tendency to support the red side. And I started to notice really about a year before the last election, especially on TikTok, the folks on the foundational folks in America that have started to lean more towards the policies and the discussions that are happening more on the red side have substantially increased. And the people that you will find that have left, you know, what they call the blue team and moved over to the red team, they're just, they're ordinary folks that you would not expect to do something like that. And I started to notice a greater and greater trend. And so there's a number of people that I follow on TikTok. I try to follow everybody. You know, if they can speak and talk and not be yelling, and most of the time kind of tell the truth. You know, I'm all about voices and perspective. And so what I've noticed is that there has been a substantial amount of just ordinary black folks that are now leaning more towards the policies and the, you know, I'm not wanting to necessarily say rhetoric, but the spirit of being a little bit more conservative versus being a little bit more liberal. And it's really been changing substantially. And so I say all this to say, when I was looking at the most recent activities that took place at the White House, the demographics of the folks that are now supporting more conservative values in the red side have been, they're not the typical folks that you would expect before in the past to lean towards that side of the political spectrum. So there is a much wider drift now towards folks that are ordinary, that don't have a specific, you know, type that you would generally see, leaning a little bit more towards, you know, the values that they're going to find over on the red team. And like I said, I'm not surprised. I started to see this shift really probably about a year before the election, and it keeps growing and growing and growing. And even with this whole thing that happened with the State of the Union address, you know, that was a lot, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. That was a lot also to ignite a lot of people. And we always hear this statistic when it came to the 2024 election. You know, folks said 92% of Black Americans voted for Kamala Harris. And so, and actually I kind of went back to kind of find out where that all came from, because as far as I know, when you go to the polls, there is no official racial or ethnic tally on the ballots so that they can accumulate that data. And so what they typically do is they will rely upon exit data. And so when you look this up, if they say 92% of Black women voted for Kamala, and I think it was somewhere around 73% of Black men voted for Kamala. And when you take and average the two together, it was somewhere around 82%. You know, when you average the high and the low number, 82%. And so, you know, this is the thing. That number is all based on exit polls, simply. And I'll tell you, exit polls are not necessarily accurate. They've been proven to be inaccurate in many, many cases before in the past. And the one danger that you have when you rely upon exit polls or asking folks, you know, on the phone, you know, how they may vote, is that there's a number of people that present a certain way, but once they get inside the ballot booth and they pull the curtain closed, they vote a whole different way. And then when they come out, they will jump back on that persona. But in reality, it doesn't necessarily or accurately represent, you know, what the true sentiment might be. So all I'm saying is, from what I've observed, you know, as much as a year before folks, before the election, folks in the Black community seem like they are sliding and being a lot more open and vocal about siding a little bit more with the values and, you know, hang on one second. siding with values and the talking points that you're going to find on the red team. And I tell you, traditionally, we black folks, we are a more conservative people just by upbringing and how we were raised and the things that we've taught and we've been learned. And a lot of folks have, by default, just kind of voted for the blue team. And what I want to say is that is changing based on my observations and even conversations I have with other people and stuff. There's a lot of folks that are just kind of hanging on by a thread right now. And I tell you, as they kind of try to figure it out, there's a lot more information that's available now where you can log on to platforms and just listen to people talk. And I think that's kind of something that people have to be aware of. And I did a whole video before where I talked about the ginger community, and marginalized communities, which are actually, we should rename them and call them the margin. And so no team right now, the red or the blue team, has enough gumption to be able to get everybody to vote and get them in. And so it's the folks that are kind of in the middle and the margin are the ones that are going to kind of sway things. And I think at this point now, nobody can really take anyone for granted, but it's something that folks have to be kind of aware of, that there is a shift that's taking place. And, I think the more and more things that happen out there right now in the media, those kind of things will definitely sway folks one way or another as the midterms kind of approach here. So that's all I wanted to say is when it came down to seeing who actually showed up and who was at the Black History Month celebration at the White House, they were just ordinary folks that you wouldn't typically expect to see in that environment. And they were happy to be there. And there was one lady, one auntie that got up and gave a speech and kind of ignited everybody. And I'll tell you what, I know people that are like that. I got folks in my family. I got clients that are like that. I know people that are like that. And so to see this shift happen is something that folks really have to kind of pay attention to. And so if you are going to, have a group of people as a voting bloc in your political party, you can't take anybody for granted anymore. You're going to have to make sure that you really listen to those people and that voting bloc and find out what their needs are and provide beyond, benign neglect when you kind of come through and say, hey, I got hot sauce in my purse. You go and, do the latest TikTok dance at a church, and then after that, you kind of disappear. Those techniques that have happened, worked before in the past, are no longer happening anymore. So I think both sides have to be completely aware of the shift and general dynamics that are taking place, and they need to adjust accordingly. But it definitely is happening gradually right now, and to the point where a lot of people may not have noticed it, but it definitely is happening for sure. So just want to say that real quick, throw that out there. And let's jump right in real quick to the State of the Union. Let's talk about that. So I don't know if it was last week or the week before, Trump had his State of the Union address. And from the statistics, it was one of the longest ones ever on record. And I didn't watch it live as it took place, but I came back and watched it a day or two later on YouTube and watched the whole thing from the start to the finish. And I'll tell you, the more and more we exist, the more and more we show that we are, divided. And I'll tell you, the State of the Union before used to really be a bipartisan event where both sides would get together, and it's a chance for the American people to see some of the things that the country has accomplished and the direction we're moving in, and they're able to stand up and show their support of the president, and whatever his policies and talking points are, folks would stand up and clap and, sit back down, so it is far from that now. It's really turned into an awesome and incredible piece of political theater. That's probably the best way to describe kind of what happened. It was just an incredible piece of political theater that took place. And so a number of the people on the blue team said, funk all that, we ain't coming. And they sat it out. Some of them had their own individual events that they, staged. There was one where I think this guy was dressed up in a chipmunk outfit or something, and he was jumping back and forward on the chairs, and then there was another one where I think people were dressed up in frogs outfits and, talking about they were in the swamp. Then there were some other ones that were supposed to be, alternative, things to the State of the Union address. And I'll tell you, it's not much different than what happened during the Super Bowl. Folks were talking about, that there was the Turning Point USA halftime version, how un-American that was to be able to do something like that. And here we go. We got, folks doing the same thing for the State of the Union. So, like I said, everything pretty much exists in balance. If you're unhappy about something that one of the sides is doing, give it a week or two, the other side will duplicate and do something that's very, very similar, so yeah, so that's what happened there. So they had, folks come actually to the event, and they were there. They announced the president, and the Democrats that were there, the blue team, they went out of their way to be unsupportive as possible to President Trump. And I'll tell you, I give him credit for always playing 4 and 5D chess. And there was a number of things that were happening, a number of things that were saying. And I'm not talking that I support anything he said or not support anything he said. I'm just talking about just the basic structure of what happened. And there was a lot of unruliness that was taking place from the blue team, yelling and being disrespectful and all that. And if you watched the clips or watched the whole thing, you guys saw it. We don't need to hash that out. But I tell you, when you go back historically, I think the very first time that there was ever an inkling of slight disrespect that took place at the State of the Union address, it was, I think it was in 2009, and I think, was it 2009, I think? Yeah, somewhere around there. And Obama was giving his State of the Union. He was actually talking something about immigration at the time, and there was a Republican that yelled out lies. And so many people were just aghast that there was just that blatant disrespect. And so the Republicans started it, and then the next year, the Democrats went in on their next couple years or so. They were the next, and I think actually it was probably another 8 to 10 years before there was any other unruly or disrespectful behavior. Then after that, the Democrats came back, and I forget specifically what they did. I had looked it up, but they struck back during one of the State of the Union addresses, and then the Republicans turned around and they amped it, and I think it was Marjorie Taylor Greene and somebody else that was popping off really bad during Joe Biden's State of the Union, and they were getting very loud and very rowdy. And so each time it's just ramped up. And so now of course it's the Democrats' return, or the blue team's turn to really ramp it up. And a lot of the folks that were there, especially looks like Omar and one of her other additional associates that were sitting next to her, that's part of Congress, they were getting to be, very, very unruly. Whether it was warranted or not, there was just a certain level of disrespect that was taking place. And so I say all that to say, these kind of things have happened, and they've been going on now, and it's kind of like the new norm, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. But it started out with the first, blood being drawn by the red team, and it's ratcheted up to where it is right now. And so I say all that to say, to get to kind of where we are. So there was a point where, Trump was going through and talking about different things, and the blue side would sit down and the red side would stand up. And he kind of walked everybody down this long path and got to the point where, and I remember looking at some of the videos and stuff where there was a number of people that were on the blue team that were checked out. They were on their phone. One guy looked like he was sitting there sleeping, and he asked one simple question. And as this was happening, people on the blue team perked up, and they knew what was about to happen. And I don't think any of them had planned for this at all. And he asked them, he said, hey, and I'm just paraphrasing, he said, we're all here elected by, the American people to do what's in the best interest of the country and to put the country first. Stand up if your job is to put America first over illegal immigrants. And so, and at that moment when that question dropped, all the Republicans stood up, and they had a sustained round of applause for, it seemed like almost 2 or 3 minutes. And none of the, I think there was one guy that is in Pennsylvania, I forget what his name is, he's a Democratic senator, or I think he stood up and he clapped, but pretty much everybody else sat down. And as this was all unfolding, folks were kind of like, oh shoot, we didn't expect this to happen, what should we do? And so in solidarity, they stay seated, and Trump pointed out what was going on, and said, hey, you guys are not going to stand up to put America first, which is what our job is, and here we are, and so afterwards, I know a lot of the people on the blue team tried to backpedal, and it seemed like after that, some of the things that were coming up, the blue team was standing up a little bit more, trying to be supportive. But he did a 4 or 5D chess move there, and America was really paying attention to that, and they were really watching. And I think that most folks, for the most part, they may not be happy with America, but they want to put America first, and they believe in America. Hey, it is what it is. And other folks also too have different variations of that, and then there's folks that don't want to put America first. So that's the full gamut of how things play out, and so yeah, it was a very, very tough thing for the blue team to try to placate afterwards and try to and I think that's going to be something that's going to be a thorn in their side as we get into the midterm elections. And I think a lot of folks that may have hated, the blue side, or that may have hated the red side of the team, deep down inside, they still love America, and they want to put America first. They're just not happy with the version of what's happening. And so the way I see it is, if you look at a giant bell-shaped curve, distribution, I think there's 25% of America that is hardcore red team, and there's 25% of America, the train's getting ready to take off. There's 25% of America that's hardcore blue team. Then there's a 50% in the middle that they have to fight and battle over. And I think more of the people towards the center and towards the left, after seeing what happened, I think a lot of them have probably been affected in how they are going to potentially vote. So we'll see. You know, I'm not here to predict one way or another. I'm just here to kind of talk about things that I observed. And then speaking on that, there was a lady, I forget what her name was, and this is what this all kind of comes down to. We always have to be very careful on how we get gassed up and who gasses us up and who puts a battery in our back. There was one lady that she was in Minnesota, and she has a history of being an activist. Okay, cool, whatever. You know, there's a lot of different things that she supported over the years, you know, women's rights and, you know, George Floyd and a number of other types of things that have happened. So she has a name and a place and a thing that she's passionate about that she's able to do. You know, all good. That works out. We all need to find our thing. So out in Minnesota, I think she's also, she has a partial brain injury, and she also is autistic on the spectrum as well. But she was out allegedly driving her car, and then there was a debacle that took place with ICE, and she said she got, you know, conflicting instructions. They broke the window, they sliced the seatbelt, then they dragged her out the car, they cuffed her, and they carried her off, and she ended up getting significantly injured on her arm and her shoulder. And you know, a pretty unwieldy and sad situation. And when you look in it, when you go back and look at the video, you can see the terror and the fright in her face as this was all happening. And so she got invited to come be part of the gallery up on top and be part of the State of the Union address. And she was there, and so a guest of Omar, and I don't know how much she was given as far as instructions or protocol. You know, from what she said after the fact, she was only told that she can do two things. One is either stand up or two, sit down. And so she wanted, and in her interview after the fact, when Trump started speaking, she didn't agree with what he said, and she said that she wanted to stand up and look him in his eyes as he was actually saying all this stuff. And so I guess what happened was the Capitol Police came along, saw her standing up, and assumed that she was protesting. Whether she was or not, I'm not here to judge one way or another, but she was breaking the general protocol of the chamber. And they asked her to sit down. She refused to, and then they grabbed her and hauled her out, and she got arrested and went to jail that night. And she got brought up on disorderly conduct or disruption charges by the Capitol Police, and I think she was released early the next morning. You know, and so when you saw the pictures of her being taken out of the chambers, you can see the same, if not similar, fright that was on her face. And I know that she was reliving the moment of what happened to her when she was, you know, dragged out the car in Minnesota. You know, so my heart goes out for her for sure. Definitely suffering from some PTSD because of the prior event and then the compounding of the second event. But the part that's important here is that we all have to be very, very careful that in a time of need and vulnerability, that we're not gassed up to the point where we are potentially used or misappropriated to get somebody else's opinion across, regardless of it being ours or not. And so the thing is, Omar, she was down there yelling in the chambers, bottom chambers. She has a right to do that. She is she's a member of Congress, so she has a lot more leeway than a person that's unrecognizable or unknown. And so was there a disservice that was done to the lady that got arrested upstairs by the Capitol Police? Was she potentially misled in what she could do and what she couldn't do? We don't know. I have no idea. But in the end, the point is the lady that got arrested for just standing there and protesting, in her mind, is going to have to deal with this legal issue potentially. I think it's up to 6 months in jail and a $10,000 fine. And then the way this current administration is moving and maximizing things, it's not letting any stone be left unturned. And I know even at this point now, when you get to the, what happened with the church that was stormed, I think they're up to 39 people that they've arrested and indicted at this point. So, my point is, you got to be careful when it's all said and done. And this goes back to something I've said from the very, very beginning. You have to be careful, you have to be mindful, you have to think things through, because ultimately in the end, nobody's coming to save any of us at all. And if you end up getting arrested by Capitol Police, you have to go to jail, you're gonna have to go to court, you're gonna have to potentially have a large fine or, do some time in jail. The most that you can expect is somebody to try to raise a GoFundMe for you or say a few kind words, but in the end, you're the one that has to kind of take on this burden. So I hope that the lady that has a history of being an activist, that she puts this experience in her back pocket, and going forward as she works to try to make a difference, which I think we all should, that she works within the confines of risk that will minimize what could potentially happen to her, but like I said, I understand what she was doing. We all have a right to protest, but we just have to be very careful in the environments that we're in when we decide to go about these types of behavior. So I'll just leave it at that. So let me go ahead and jump real quick to the Iranian conflict, and the UAE. So as we're aware right now, man, it is bumping and it is popping off in the Middle East. And I think at this point, Iran might be put in the Guinness Book of World Records for one single country in conflict with the most sovereign nations all at one time. It is just bumping over there right now. And I'm not here to discuss, whether it's a war, if it's not, or if it was, justifiable in the way it unfolded, if Congress was properly notified and they've had a chance to weigh on this. That's really not what any of this is about at all. So, the part I want to talk about is the UAE. And I'll tell you, we went to Dubai, I think it was last year is when we went. And I had never been to Dubai before. And if you go there, it is just straight up a metropolis. So it is just an incredible nod to the future. Man, capabilities, dreams, vision, it's all there. If you want to see what the world might look like in 20 years, definitely go to Dubai. And the crazy thing is, I guess Israel launched the first initial attack and at Iran, and they simultaneously, started sending missiles and drones to their neighbors that are essentially across the sea from them. And you just kind of try to figure out what is going on here. It's just wild, and on your left. Okay, cool. Yeah, so the whole thing is just wild. So they were sending stuff over to Kuwait and Jordan and Bahrain and, the UAE, all that. And what's going on? It's just wild and crazy. And so I was looking, and so the thing is, I was looking at the missile count and drone count of what they've sent out. And I think almost the majority of the projectiles that they've sent out, in the number of almost 900 as of probably yesterday or something, have been directed towards the UAE, which is crazy. If you think about it, you're like, well, what has the UAE done to them, you know. And I was kind of thinking about it a little bit. And, you know, when you go there to Dubai, they have, not Dubai, but if you go to Dubai, it's part of the UAE. It's one of the provinces there, states within the UAE. It's very, very safe. And so it's touted that you can leave your door open, not lock it. If you leave your cell phone on the counter, somebody will find a way to get it back to you. There's no theft. There's no debauchery. If you do any crimes against humanity there, you're going to get swift punishment and jail time, etc. So that encourages folks to, you know, really try to be on their best behavior all the time. And I think it's very, very natural. And there's also additional rules too that take place that folks may or may not, you know, agree with. You know, all good. And when we were there, I was just like, wow, this place is very, very cool. It feels very, very safe. I didn't necessarily like the way the city was laid out. You know, it's, you know, but I appreciated everything that was there in the city, you know. And I'll tell you, the city, the UAE is really being pushed as a safe haven where you can invest and buy real estate and keep your business because there's no national income tax, you know, that individuals are going to pay. So, and when I was there, just in Dubai only, in the surrounding area, I'll tell you, I probably saw no less than 300 tower cranes. And there's a number of developers there that are building, you know, villages and communities within the city itself. They're all completely self-contained. So my point is, I think that Iran wants to interrupt that feeling of serenity, solitude, and peace. And that's why so many ballistics have been aimed there towards them. And so, of course, you know, the UAE has US bases and also infrastructure, and the majority of what's happened there that's been sent inbound has been intercepted and destroyed. There's been a few things that kind of snuck through, or pieces of debris that have made a slight indelible mark. I know that there was, we stayed at on the Palm Jumeirah at the JW Marriott, and the hotel across the street had debris that landed and caught on fire. You know, there's also the famous Palm, I forget what the name is called, but it's the Sail Hotel. It's like the first 6 or 7 star hotel in the world. It got hit with debris, you know, and I think the whole idea here is to interrupt their economy and what they're trying to build, you know. So could it be chalked up to jealousy? I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but hopefully, you know, the conflict in itself dies down soon, and the majority of folks that are there are able to pull out and get back home through the entire Middle East, and there's minimal casualties and unalivings. That's what my hope is, but to be honest with you, I kind of doubt it. But I just want to at least bring that up, that's one of the things that has really shocked me with this whole thing, is Iran's focus on trying to disrupt what's going on in the UAE. And, you know, maybe this is something that we can all learn from. So you might be out there doing what you need to do, trying to make it happen, and you have people that might be pocket watching you and looking for any opportunity possible to try to bring you down and make you look bad in front of everybody. You know, so I think folks will call these the ops, the opposition. And so it's something we should all be aware of. Like they say in the 48 laws of power, you know, keep your friends close and your enemies even closer. So just want to just leave it at that right there. So, all right, guys, let's talk about the last topic here. And I don't have much time left, but let's talk about Love is Blind, the Ohio edition. And I'll tell you, if you guys know me, you know I am 100% about the smoke, the beef, and the funk. And I love watching crime movies, mafia movies, gangster movies, but you will never ever catch me, you know, out there running capers and doing stuff. I am a casual observer of these things. And man, Love is Blind. I'll tell you, I don't even know what to even say about it, but I encourage you guys, if you haven't watched it, to watch it. And I think the most important thing to see here is, I think at the beginning, and I think this season and last season, I was really upset. I'm like, you know, because it's like the black folks that are on there, when they try to get together, they got a lot of issues and baggage that they bring to the table, and they just can't seem to often engage and make it to the aisle. But you know what? Everybody there pretty much has the same issue and the problem. And I just think some people are a little bit better at masking it. They might be a little bit more polished at masking it. They might be a little bit better at hiding it. So I think what I ended up doing was I ended up looking ahead and watching, or at least Googling to find out what the last, what happened on the last episode. And all I want to say is you just have to, everybody wants to get out here and find somebody. Not everybody, but most people do. And it's rough, it's treacherous. And if you find somebody, you know, that fits the majority of what you need, and they are just as happy with you, you may have found your match. And that's one of the most hardest and most difficult things to do. And they've tried to do different versions of this love experiment. And so by falling in love with someone ahead of time without actually seeing them, hopefully when you finally do see them, none of that makes a difference at all. But I don't think that's the way it works at all. You know, so it's kind of be a combination of all the things. And I'll say this, you know, so many of the guys that are on there, they need help, they need therapy. I'm not gonna try to spoil anything for you guys. And so many of the girls that are on there, man, they are just as much of hot messes, you know. So in a way, you know, I would hope that they are really truly trying to put couples together, but I think also some of it as well may be, you know, the smoke that comes along with these types of things. So yeah, you know, I encourage you guys to watch the show and check it out, and if you can, you know, enjoy it for what it is, and try to see if there's some lessons that you can learn in it. So if you're single, you're trying to find Mr. and Mrs. Right, just be able to talk to folks and be able to try to work yourself through a lot of the representative things that people kind of bring to the table, and see if you can put it together. There's actually one guy on there, and he is all over the place. And so he's got a very interesting story of travel and being kind of a nomad, and he kind of fills it in with his mom showing up, and she's a nomad. But and I hope I'm not missing the people up here, but she goes back to meet her dad and bring him. And so her dad is a very strong man and kind of a no BS kind of guy. And he's talking to the guy, interrogating him, asking him a lot of questions, and the guy's, popping off answers and stuff. But after, being barraged by these questions, at the end he says, you know what? You're a great guy, you look good, you're highly polished, you got all the answers, but there's something here that just doesn't make sense, And so I don't know if he talked to his daughter, but later on she started digging a little bit more with him to come to find out that he had kind of a sordid past with ex-girlfriends and living with them and trying to cover it up with kind of like a master story and all that. So these are all things that you kind of need to do. And I think I've ran into some people in my life where I'm like, you know what, you may have made a not so best decision for your husband or honey boo boo or whatever, but if you had your dad in your life, or you had a father figure or somebody that was a strong man that was able to talk to them, you would have been able to, they would have told you right away that, hey, the things that you're experiencing and having problems with right now are, they would have been able to suss those things out. So I think it's important to be able to have folks around you that you can talk to, and I'll just leave it at that. So like I said, you guys get a chance to watch it. I'm all about the smoke and the funk and the beef, and I wish everybody the best as they kind of try to work through what's out there and what's left. And I even said, I just told Marilyn all the time, I said, you know what, I am the best of what was left. So, it is what it is. So that's it, guys. My time's almost up here. I want to just say thank you for hanging out here, watching the video with me today. I'm glad I got this cyclecast off. So I'll go ahead and end it here, and take care, guys. Appreciate you. Peace. In my life. Oh, shit. Okay, my brother fell. This is black ice. Okay. All right, I'm okay. All systems check. All right, I'm good. So let me just penguin it.